Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. I see we've got a number of attendees. So thank you for joining our webinar here today. We will get started here in just a few minutes. I know it's around lunchtime and people have meetings, so we'll wait just a few more minutes to get started. And we appreciate you joining us today. So be patient, and then we will get this thing going here in just a moment. I just realized I'm talking to myself. Hey, everybody, thanks for joining. We have a few more attendees rolling in, so we'll wait exactly one more minute, and then we'll get started 3 minutes after the half hour with this webinar. My name is David Klotz with Enola. So again, thank you for joining us. We will get started momentarily. All right. Got a good group of attendees. So thank you all for joining. Internally on my side, can you guys see me in my presentation? Nope. There we go. Perfect. Hey, everybody. My name is David Klotz. I'm the Director of Federal Accounts with Enola Technologies. I am excited to have you all join us today as we have a fantastic webinar for you on the topic of the MBSE ecosystem in 2026. We have a wonderful guest speaker, Saulius Pavalkis from Dassault, as well as the CTO and co-founder of Enola Technologies, David Fields, to give their insights. Before I go into what we're going to expect from this webinar and a little about Enola, for those of you who may not be familiar, just wanted to say everyone is on mute, but if you do have questions, we are going to have breaks in between our speakers today, and we will make sure to answer every question. We have plenty of time for all of the content and Q&A today, so please either put it in the chat or there's a Q&A section at the top. We highly encourage all the engagement in the world. We are here to not only provide some really great insight, but also to be able to answer questions and make sure this is more of a dialogue after we're able to provide that insight. All right. So what to expect from this webinar. So we will be exploring the MBSE ecosystem and roadmap. Like I said, we have Saulius Pavalkis, the head of the MBSE ecosystem for Dassault Systèmes. He's going to present on the upcoming 2026 version 2026 release, highlighting the new plugins and partner solutions and infrastructure for large-scale deployments, standards updates, including the hottest topic on SysML v2, SSP, FML, and more. After that, we'll take some questions, and then it'll be David Fields, our co-founder and CTO of Enola Technologies, who's going to share actual life lessons from extending the MBSE ecosystem in mission-critical environments. He's going to draw on past experiences, not only working with clients, but also his experience personally before Enola Technologies, working with the federal government. And then finally, we expect that by the end of this, every one of you will have gained a unique perspective on a combined view of platform-driven innovation and practical application to help your organization. So both Dassault and Enola Technologies are here to support you fully in your MBSE efforts and your journey. So again, we just thank you for your attendance and your attention. Oh, also, before I continue, we will be sending out a copy to everybody that's registered and attended of the video recording of this webinar. So if for any reason you have to drop, you will be receiving that via your inbox automatically. And we're also going to send out a short while after a copy of the slides that we present today to all of our attendees. So again, thanks for being a part of this. And before I jump over to Saulius, I just want to give a quick introduction of who Enola is for those of you who may not be familiar with us. So Enola Technologies, we are a leading training, coaching, and consulting firm, and we are dedicated to the rapid evolution of our clients within the digital world. Our services are directed towards digital engineering and transformation, model-based systems engineering, software and enterprise architecture, database architecture, ontologies, and then collaboration and server management. Our objective is to engineer excellence and help you evolve digitally. Our slogan is to outfox the competition, and we do this by enabling you to be successful on your own. So Enola's mission is to train, coach, and mentor your staff to be independently successful as quickly as possible. And to that end, we provide about 3 major services overall. So we offer unique instructor-led training programs, skill building workshops, and support and staffing. And I'll dive into a little bit of these real quick, just so you have an understanding of what I'm talking about and describing. So Enola offers not only direct training for large groups of up to 12 to 15 individuals, instructor-led. All of our instructors on average have an average over 10 years in MBSE and model-based systems engineering development experience. And we train on a wide variety of classes. You can see the menu listed there. I won't run through all the bullets. And then we do offer open enrollments that are open throughout the year for anyone interested in taking a course with us. These can be delivered virtually, or if you have a group that you want us to come and work with on site, we can also do that for you. So we have the following open enrollments upcoming. So querying Magic Draw at the end of this month. Actually, that'll just be next week. And so with structured expressions, if you want to learn more about that, highly encourage you to reach out to us and we can get you signed up. Then we have enterprise architecture in the UAF. And finally, we have another of our baseline course applying SysML with Magic Draw in November. So if any of these courses or topics interest you, love to hear from you. We can get you signed up really easily and make sure that you're set up to take those classes, no problem. All right, and I see, oh, if I'm sharing a screen, you just see the video of myself. Can anyone else, I see Nicole asked that question. Is anyone else having trouble seeing my shared screen? I'm not sure. David, can you see it? You only see me?
I see both, so I'm unsure, but
maybe if I try doing this. Stephen, thank you for your follow-up. Does that improve it? I'll just go ahead and take off my face so that way there's not a competing attention. I am not nearly as important as the slides. All right. And then the other area that Enola provides value for our customers is support and staffing. So we offer support packages at various tiers. These are essentially blocks of hours that our customers use to consume, where we can provide a wealth of support and guidance from all things MBSE related. So we start at our silver package, which is about 10 hours a month. all the way up to our Platinum, which can be 50 hours. So you can use this in hands-on practical applications within your environment. We can give guidance on things like standing up your teamwork server, standing up your environment, helping create your libraries, your scripting, your languages, your queries, your VTLs, all of this great wealth of information and guidance from our years of experience. If you are using especially the Cameo line of products, we can be an excellent help there, as a lot of our founders actually came over from NoMagic before they were a part of Dassault. So we are uniquely positioned to be an extra source of support for your MBSE needs. And we also provide direct hire staffing if you have a project that you need to ramp up extremely quickly. And with all of that said, here's our contact information. Again, we thank you so much for joining as we get into the really exciting part. I am proud to introduce Saulius Pavalkis of Dassault, and he will walk you through the MBSE Roadmap 2026.
Hello, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we also see, there we go, perfect.
Okay, so everything is okay. Okay, so let me introduce myself just shortly. So I'm an MBSE Ecosystem Director, and Portfolio Manager here in US. I'm managing the most senior team at the software system engineering. Most of them came from model-based system engineering with 20 years of experience in system modeling, mission engineering, UAF, SysML v2 now, simulation, cybersecurity, safety analysis, full digital threat, and other areas. Most of them you know already very well because they are well-recognized experts. From my side, I spent my time at NoMagic, before Dassault acquired, building the product as an analyst, and now switched to the consulting, and now help companies adopt MBSE. We support through the workshops and other type of engagements. Okay, so talking about the release schedule, it doesn't change at all. If you remember, 2023, we presented that release schedule. As you see, at that time we had 2024 release end of the year. And the numbering was because it is the number of the version which will be supported next year. So we have like 24, November 23. And then we had 3 refresh releases, which are like really major releases, just like we don't change file format. So we call it refresh 1, but it includes also features. So we have it on July, and then again end of the year, and then another July in 2025. It was still refresh 24. And then November this year will be 2026 release because it will be supported next year. And this versioning is also in synchronization with 3D experience in order that whole ecosystem would be easier to take and use. So here is the release schedule, and if we will prognose, what will be in the future. So November 2025 is 26 release, then we'll have July refresh 1, November again refresh 2, and then refresh 3 next year, 2027, and in November 27 we'll have 28 release. We can't say that will be for sure like that, but like there should be like serious reasons why we would not follow this release schedule. Okay, now let's go to the what's new in the MBSE ecosystem. So this includes internal and external integrations. Some of you already know this model. We have the first version presented actually in 2023 and then updated seriously in 24, which is displayed all the known integrations through perhaps the biggest MBSE ecosystem network of partners and internal integrations. And we updated slide 25, and then with 26 we got a major update again, like right now. And let me switch to the model here. I will present directly from CATIA Magic. I'm using presenter mode. So you can see here, I switch to full screen, no toolbars, just pure presentation and the diagram, but everything is live. So first of all, first things first, like SysML v2. So at last we are going to release v2, which a lot of people already tried. We have an internal program that anyone can register and use the SysML v2 internally. Not for commercial usage because it was not yet released, right? But so we are planning to release with 2026. This will come as a, you see here, capability for Magic Cyber Systems Engineer and Magic Systems of Systems Architect. This both tools will get the same capabilities from SysML v2 side. As you can see here, this will be like SysML v2 plugin, small kind of like internal plugin, but in any case, so you will have this capability. As you can see here, this includes such use cases like textual editing, query, diagramming, model editing, transformation, and then also model evaluation. If you have this simulation toolkit, with V1, you will get also this V2 capability, model evaluation. It's not yet simulation, but it will be model evaluation with the multiple capabilities. This also will be on Cameo side, right? It's not only on the cyber systems, on not only on CATIA Magic portfolio, but also on the Cameo portfolio will be supported. It will be in parallel SysML v1 and v2 supported for people to choose which one to use for a long time. So what we see else that we have scripting from SysML v2, MATLAB integration from server side. We have all those change configuration management capabilities. We'll have new viewer, which will be not Cameo collaborator, but new viewer. We call it Magic Lab until the name will change. If not change, that's the name for now. Also server side evaluation for SysML v2. There is also capability as web app, SysML v2 standard APIs, REST and HTTP APIs, on top of the existing APIs which we had and have and will have. What else? We have also new type of the file format, which is SysML. So this is the file format, pure SysML textual notation, import, export, and also MBSE. This is actually a database format for Teamwork Cloud, but it was used before to migrate the version, like a project with all the usages from one Teamwork Cloud to another Teamwork Cloud. But now it will be locally available as a primary way how you work with the project file, and you will be able to do the versioning, all the capabilities which you do with Teamwork Cloud, but it will become with the rich client already without an extra installation. And then you will decide when to commit to Teamwork Cloud or when you to export a file to give to someone, but you will work in this configuration environment, which will be amazing because you will have history, we will have everything else, what was available before, but with Teamwork Cloud only. But also you will have much shorter time to collaborate with Teamwork Cloud because this will not transform from one format to another. This is like a native Teamwork Cloud format locally. So this by itself, big deal, because it's coming with SysML v2 for now available. So will be new capability, which we will dedicate more time later on. What else? 3D Experience platform site also will have capabilities. Our goal to release them as soon as possible. So this could be end of the year, could be a little bit later because there is like a lot of dependencies which needs to be tested. It's not isolated environment, as you know. There is like hundreds of applications which integrate the data. So the goal is actually to make it first of all reliably integrated with as much as possible things, and SysML v2 is an enabler for that, and this is first step to enable it on 3D Experience side. So what else? Okay. There's also patching capability. Many capabilities which are already available will be also available. Some of them are not in the first release for SysML v2 because they are priorities. This is new language, not evolution, but revolution. And it brings also a lot of new things like textual editing, brings new queries, brings new diagrams, new visualization capabilities, and so on. So those things as a priorities to redo all the things based on our scalability, usability, standard compliance. That's the must things to accomplish, and then later will come extra things which are not the primary capabilities within the future releases, and we'll update this model with that. Okay, that's the very short introduction to SysML v2. Here you see a quick look at the SysML v2 diagrams and textual notation. Those are synchronized. Actually, you can change in textual notation. You can click synchronize button, it will update in the diagrams, and vice versa. Just one thing, actually, people may be confused that none of that is source of truth, no diagram, no textual notation. Model is source of truth. Here is the unique pointer to the unique data, right? And the diagrams and textual notation are views, right? Okay, and we have, as I said, the early experience program. Many people already registered, and the number is growing daily. And you can access this tool today. Just send us email, and if you need to have 2024 refresh 3 available, then we will send you the code which and some other information which enables you to access to community and to SysML v2 even today. What we give you SysML v2 and 24. But end of the year release will be a new tool on 26, right? It will be more capable. But in any case, that's the goal. So now next step, we have specialty engineering capabilities, and those capabilities are based on the years of experience. With Dassault Systèmes, we have multiple teams who are experts, not only on system engineering, but on electrical, electronic, software architecture. And they created those products on top of the CATIA Magic as a, first of all, EE and software architecture, electrical, electronics, and software architect plugin. It's a commercial plugin, but it gives you that high-level design. So now you can transition from SysML to high-level design. It was mostly automotive. Now it comes to the aerospace and defense with the specific standards. So here you see the use cases supported, the high-level design, communication matrix modeling, hardware architecture modeling, signal routing, software architecture modeling, interface control documents, communication payload editor, interchange RxML, CanDB, Lin, and there is also multiple interchange formats, as you can see here. Again, this is automotive plus aerospace and defense. Plugin, it connects the dots with design, right? So you transition from system architecture to the initial high-level design in out-of-the-box meta model node that you would not require to invent. And we had those requests for years, we were building even internally profiles, how to extend, for CanDB modeling and simulation. So here's out of the box. Amazing new capabilities for modeling and simulation, like signal flowing, like animation, and CanDB data modeling in the table, and analysis, import, export, right? What else? Even some dashboards, showing, visually information. And this is, again, one of the specialty engineering extensions which came with a lot of experience of additional teams providing this capability. Now, talking about same specialty engineering, we have a new plugin, Magic System Safety Engineer, which will be commercial, but it will also use the no-cost plugins, which we had for years. So Safety and Availability Analyzer, ISO 26262, Functional Safety, Fault-Free Analysis. If you are in this area, you know that those plugins were available for no cost with such capabilities, as you can see here, support. But from the 2024 2026, we'll have new plugin, Magic System Safety Engineer, which will deliver safety and reliability analysis, FMEA analysis advanced, based on method, advanced FMEA table and support, RCL matrices, DFMEA analysis, RAM compliance. All of them are RAM compliant. And again, because we have this methodology in the company, the Dassault Systems, for the FMEA analysis, so we are able now to deliver that as a standard-based, SysML-based extension and integrate it to system engineering and later to the design. Here we have Cybersecurity Designer, also new plugin. It was available with last release, Refresh 3, but extra features added. And this is, as you can see here, also commercial product. It depends on this no-cost safety and reliability analysis plugins. And it provides such capabilities, so cyber security requirements creation to mitigate identified risks, cybersecurity analysis, model items, assets to be protected, risk evaluation, threats analysis and risk assessment based on the standard, threat and cyber attack modelization, worthiness, DoD, airworthiness, DO326A standard support. This is big deal because we are switching to the aerospace market for cybersecurity. MITRE database for attack and control libraries, NIST library for controls, RAM compliant. Okay. Again, specialty engineering, dedicated teams, no longer pure system engineering. It's actually extending system engineering for specialty engineering, dedicated with all the required capabilities and developed with its own roadmap, with its own team, with its own needs. Okay, now another exciting thing in the Dassault Systems, there is amazing data analytics capability. It's a whole area of the company brand called NetVibes, and they provide data querying and displaying capabilities through dashboards. Deep data analysis capabilities, and now we have ability to actually extract CATIA Magic data through Power BI. As you can see here, CATIA Magic Rich Client, we can commit the model to Power BI, so-called Power BI. It's like alternative for Teamwork Cloud into 3D Experience platform. And what it gives is this semantic graph indexing capability of the project, not single project, but the whole history, what was committed here. And then we have apps which can do data perspective studio editor of the dashboard, so you can actually query and create dashboards. Then you have a data dashboards viewer, so if you're just viewing those dashboards, you just need this one. And also we have first out of the box dashboard. It comes with the CATIA Systems Intelligence Analyst role, and you get ability to see traceability information, how many elements, snapshots, progression over time. So here you can see a short one screenshot, quick look into the dashboarding capability. Those are like element model usages, some other statistics. Here is even short video which we present dashboards capabilities. As you can see here, we have requirements, multi-level requirements in SysML. And we have those requirements are satisfied by the value properties in this case. Then we go to the editor on 3D Experience platform. This project is committed through Power BI connector to 3D Experience platform. And once there is history, you see we get immediately information, number of requirements satisfied, requirements not satisfied, then we can expand it and query the data. For example, here we are counting how many requirements at what level. See, we can expand and identify based on the levels, based on the types, requirements. You see satisfied, not satisfied, and continue through the model. That's the value property then charging time satisfies requirement. See which requirements are satisfied, which are not. Also, there are other much more, how to say, model-specific views like diagrams, right? And all of them also can be part of the dashboard. So you can actually create a navigation through the model, active navigation through the model using dashboards. That's not talking about advanced, metrics and all of that, but here you have the diagram and you have number of elements, listed, and all the information about elements, whatever is extracted from the model dynamically based on the selected version and branch and all the information, what is visible in that view. So this is displayed of the capabilities. They are internally developed dashboards so far as the services. And eventually we plan to have more of them out of the box. For now, you can kind of get like almost anything, but you can go one of few paths. You can create by yourself the right apps, or you can actually request our service team and they will help. Okay, now going to the next is the integration framework, internal integration framework, which was introduced mostly for software-related solutions. But like, as you know, system engineering is very intense on software. That's maybe why we have expansion in the MBSE usage, because software creates complexity in the systems. And it's called integration platform as a service. And here we have the solution, which behind the scene has Node-RED or some other integration framework, no cost, low code integration framework, which we provide samples for integration, like connectors for GitLab, Tulip, Jama, Jira, Doors, and also for 3D Experience platform. And also it comes as a no-cost plugin for CATIA Magic. You can even today go and find in between resource plugin managers, in resource plugin manager, Agile governance plugin, which supports linking and creating the data. For example, from Jira, right? You can link requirements to Jira items. You can create in Jira. You can create from Jira in Cameo information based on the data in one or another source. Link, update, and worth checking. And I have a couple of screenshots. As you can see here, you right click on the context, like for example, block package, and you get pull requirements, associate requirement set, and then you get list of the requirement set based on what you queried from the Jira or Jama, in this case, Jama. Okay. Now everyone is talking about AI, so we have also capabilities coming with 2026 for AI support. So this will be jump-starting the model from selection. So you will get suggestions, and this will be like as advisory, right, for you to get modeling faster. It will not decide what should be the model for you, but it will suggest value properties, ports, blocks, based on the again selection. And in the future, will be more capabilities. This AI, actually, what is coming, it will be on SysML v1 and v2. And even today, you will need to have connection to the server side on 3D Experience side with the Power BI in order to get the support, because it will be out of the box AI capability. You will not require some third party or public AI access. Now, if you experienced with the API or scripting for macro engine or simulation, you can even today query and model and get support from LLMs. There's plenty of solutions around the community, which using one another AI capability, publicly available or even non-publicly available, created extensions for CATIA Magic. So, for example, to mention the well-known ones from Belcan, STC, also Venom, also Buzal and Hamilton, which are used already by the clients. More or less, because this kind of domain which develops quickly. There are also company solutions like from Lockheed Martin, from Naval Postgrad School, which might not be public, right? But they still use those capabilities internally, and they share that they have them. So a lot of exciting things are coming, and AI will be big helper for the system engineers to be more productive, not to do their job in general, right? We still need to decide on the content and the best system architecture, because it's not about models. It's about building system architecture, the best one. So AI will help you to do that. Okay, so now talking about connectivity, there is also one interface which we used lately quite a lot. It's based on the functional mockup interface. 250 tools supports this, and as a result of this functional mockup interface support, which is supported by multiple tools we have, CATIA Magic, Daimola, robot simulation, Stimulus, control build, and other tools in our internal ecosystem supports this, but also, again, 250 tools around the world supports that standard, like Simulink and so. You can actually leverage the standard, very simple standard, by creating communication interface. This library, Modelica Device Drivers Library, which comes with Daimola, and you can leverage this library to build communication interface based on, for example, TCP/IP serial, and enable communication between tools. As you can see, tools shall support FMI standard, and you can put those two connectors generated based on this library. And you can establish communication between those tools, or even with the tool which does not support that, but because it's listening for the serial, like especially hardware can listen for serial UDP signals. And so Daimola is actually generating those FMUs, communication FMUs. So everything is out of the box. You just configure a very simple standard to use, and you get fast bidirectional parametric integration simulation, sometimes even better than out-of-the-box integration through API, because it's core simulation, so you change quickly properties bidirectionally. Here, for example, is one of the cases when we integrate hardware, can be integrated bidirectionally through serial or UDP directly. CATIA Magic has this FMU, one of those built by Daimola. Daimola natively supports, so we interchange, and with the robotic simulation, we also interchange. So we can send controls from hardware to CATIA Magic, or CATIA Magic can execute use cases, test cases, send target data to physics simulation. Daimola can send coordinates to robots. Robots can do the digital simulation and send the verification results back that they, for example, didn't collide. And that could be bidirectional, so you can do other kind of use cases. For example, if you have robot simulation running here, you can send back information about execution and monitor that. Out-of-the-box standard support. Okay, so the last thing to mention is that all those you saw the system architecture and the SysML internal block diagrams, you were seeing inside of the parts use cases, and those use cases are allocated to the components. Here's the use case model, AI, cybersecurity analysis, dashboarding, high-level design, integrations, especially IPaaS, right? Safety and reliability analysis, SysML V2, and so on. And likely that next presentation of this model will be already in SysML V2. So big progress and very bright future. So thank you for taking this quick look to the MBSE ecosystem. We'll switch to the David, and he is the one who actually applies all of that, helps clients adopt, and he will share his experience.
Thank you, Saulius. Before we jump over real quick, we had a few great questions from the audience. So want to try and get to these real quick, just so they can get the answers now before we dive into the adjacent topic with David. Nicole Fisk asks, so the textual notation is synced with the diagrams, but just like version 1, the elements themselves are source of truth and question mark. Diagrams can be locked and not always show everything about the elements that are on the diagram. So can you speak to that a little bit, and maybe the concern about how that's going to work?
Yes. So the model is source of truth, right? Elements, let's say, right? Source of truth, and diagrams is a view, right? It's based on queries, actually, what you visualize. So textual notation has queries which you can describe what you want to see in the diagram, and it will visualize based on that. And you can update in one or another view in textual notation or in the diagram. And if you change name or if you change something, it will change in both. If it is displayed on the diagram. Diagram will not show everything, but if you specify the query that it should show things, right? Like, for example, if you remember, we had tables, and we have tables and matrices. They are not based on drag and drop of elements. Even they support that too, but they are based on the queries. So this is more, SysML V2 is more based on the queries in the diagrams, which gives you the dynamic update.
Perfect.
But I suggest actually to take a look, because again, it is possible to take a look even today. They give you access to this tool and through the early access program.
Thank you for that. And Nicole, if you have a follow-up or a thought, please post it. But I'll go ahead to the next question. So I hope that addressed your concern. And then Alex Matthews asks, will 2026 have a SIM toolkit for SysML V2? If not right now, when is this planned and the roadmap?
We'll have evaluation capabilities first, right? If you have SIM toolkit, you will have those evaluation capabilities, even server side, even MATLAB integration, scripting, parametric evaluation, requirements verification, case analysis like trade studies, verification, analysis cases, few other things. But a simulation like behavior simulation is planned for the next versions, and we'll try to do it as soon as possible, let's say, because there's very many things to consider. One thing that a lot of things to implement, and also the standard is moving to be complete for the simulation side, because what is complete now is the definition, right? SysML as a language, and we had no simulation standard as a single one. Even with V1, it was multiple standards which were connected mostly by us, and now we'll have the standard, so we'll need to implement it, and for sure we'll be the ones who will implement as soon as possible. Likely, maybe next release, some things will come already.
Awesome, thank you for that, Alex. I hope that that addresses your question, and again, thank you all for the feedback. And then David Fields actually had a question.
For V2 scripting, will Python and or Jython be 2.x or 3.x based?
I don't know. We need to check.
All right. Luckily, we can get back to David on that. Perfect. Well, again, thank you for the questions. We will now turn it over to our other speaker, co-founder and CTO, David Fields. We'll talk about experience in applying integrations in the MBSE ecosystem.
All right, thank you, David. Can everybody hear me all right and see my slides, MBSE Ecosystem 2026 Customer Case Studies?
Yep, I think we can. I'm seeing it. If anyone can't,
all right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Again, thank you for joining. Mine will not be quite as visually as appealing as Saulius's was, and great job, Saulius. I had a lot I took out of that was very fascinating, and I might have some follow-up questions on. So it's always great to get insight into what's coming down the road. Now, mine's going to be a little bit different in the fact that I am going to focus mainly on how we have used some of these capabilities, primarily with the APIs, to help our customers. Now, unfortunately, I can't get into a lot of the details on these. I don't even really have any good screenshots or pictures of these implemented due to the fact that they are for particular customers. But I hope to at least outline some of the needs that we have come across, some of the challenges that we have faced, and how we leverage things such as the Java API or the REST API on Teamwork Cloud to help our customers and partners achieve their MBSE vision. So right here, I've got just a brief outline. I am going to do a little introduction of myself. I won't spend too much time there. Before I do a quick overview, just kind of setting the stage, and then I'm going to dive into 4 particular case studies that I want to address. One, dealing with Teamwork Cloud and how we pull some of that data into a rational database. I'm going to talk about parsing massive amounts of requirements and automatically creating diagrams. We'll talk a little bit about using MATLAB integration and how that can be useful for parsing data that's outside what typically could be done in Cameo. And at the very end, I'll talk a little bit about a proof of concept we did for a customer about controlling simulations with Simulation Toolkit, but through third-party homegrown apps. And at the end, I'll wrap it up with just a little bit of a conclusion. But again, if you have any questions during this, please throw them in the Q&A. Oops, next slide. All right, so a little bit about me. Again, my name is David Fields. I'm one of the founders and Chief Technology Officer at NOLA Technologies. I have over 15, probably getting closer to 20 years now that I think about it, of MBSE consulting, training, and just general development experience. Primarily as a government employee at a NAVAIR, where I spent just over 15 years as a government civilian, first out of China Lake, then out at Pax River in Southern Maryland. I'm most known for being the MQ-25 MBSE lead for 6+ years. That's the first carrier-based unmanned platform. I was also one of the founding members and a functional lead of the Navy System Engineering Transformation effort. Now I think it's called DSET, but back then it was just called SET. And then also known for standing up and running the Naval Integrated Modeling Environment for several years. That is the Navy's MBSE environment that stretches across multiple classification levels. After leaving NAVAIR, I moved down here to Huntsville, Alabama, where I am today, and I supported the Army's PEO Aviation, particularly on the FLORA program for about 18 months, where I was the digital engineering lead. After that, I decided, along with my co-founders, to help start NOLA Technologies, and since then, still been doing a lot of defense work, but also work with a lot of our commercial companies, which is actually where a lot of these trade studies or case studies come from. So let's dive in and take a little bit a look at kind of what I'm going to cover. So Magic Draw's Java API combined with Teamwork Cloud's REST API give us a fast, reliable way to stitch tools together, automate workflows, and even solve real customer integration problems across a pretty vast and complex MBSE ecosystem. And so this really enables us to do rapid automation, which is one of my favorite things. If I can save a few mouse clicks in Cameo by automating it, I absolutely will. And with the power of the Java API, we can generate, transform, and even validate model artifacts, create diagrams without having to do a lot of this manually, especially if you're doing a lot that comes in from external data sources. We can also do test data by bringing in, we'll talk about this a little bit later, real live test data in the model to compare it against behaviors that have already been captured. And when we start talking about Teamwork Cloud, it allows us to really take a step back from the day-to-day work and start looking at some of the large-scale enterprise-type metrics and analytics we can get out of all that data that is stored in Teamwork Cloud. And the reason all this works is, again, because of the expansive capabilities when it comes to extending or connecting to these suite of products. And as you saw what Saulius covered, it looks like there's going to be even more on the way that's going to allow us to connect and integrate these tools. But in particular, I'm going to be focused on things such as the Java APIs that you can do in things like Magic Draw and Cameo, as well as the Teamwork Cloud REST API for accessing that Teamwork Cloud database and all of its data. But these two together allow us to kind of glue things together, leverage other technology stacks, and generally just allow us to solve complex integration issues that come up across multiple customers of ours. Now, for the first customer case study I want to talk about is going to be focused on Teamwork Cloud. And then the original need was that this customer needed to capture and persist Teamwork Cloud model data in a form suitable for integration into a large data lake that was going to be used by other parts of the business and allow more robust metrics and analysis done based on the data that was in there. They also needed to support the historical tracking of metrics so they could see how the model grew and changed over time. And some of you might know that we do have features inside Cameo, such as metric suites, which allow some of this capability, but they are very dependent on you making sure to capture those metrics at points in time. However, with Teamwork Cloud's history and all the data that comes with it, we actually have access to all that data if you can just pull it out. And so we end up using tools like Cameo System Modeler and Teamwork Cloud, of course, along with Python and PostgreSQL to create kind of a way to pull out all the relevant information that the customer needed out of the Teamwork Cloud Cassandra database into a rational database that was set up and built in a way that their organization could take advantage of. And while this seems pretty simple on the surface, it actually had quite a few challenges, mainly because if anybody's ever worked with the REST API, especially on the model querying and manipulation, there is a lot to it because, quite frankly, there's a lot to these models and these languages. So understanding how to work through all this different data, especially some that's very unique to the customer, including profiles and their different types of style guides and things of that nature, to pull it all out and into a format that can easily be digestible and be used for different BI tools such as Power BI, Tableau, and things of that. We also ran into some challenges handling just the large volume of data because many of these models that this customer had on their Teamwork Cloud had thousands of revisions on them. And that was all important data in their mind. Even if it went back multiple years, they wanted to be able to analyze how the model had changed and who had been working on it and what type of elements and the traceability between those elements kind of evolved over time. So we had to capture all of that. Needless to say, that was a lot of data. Also, since this was going to be for a particular use case for a customer and they were going to be connecting it again to a larger data lake and business intelligence tools, we had to spend quite a bit of time normalizing the data that came out of Teamwork Cloud and not say to filter or simplify it, but just kind of manipulate it and rework it into a way that it made sense for their business analysts and others to be able to dive into and pull those insights out of. And this was one of the first times I really saw just how powerful that Teamwork Cloud REST API can really be, especially when digging into the actual model data. Because personally, I had used it for many years, more from a Teamwork Cloud administrative standpoint, not so much diving into the model data itself. So this was quite an eye-opener and actually, I think, helped our organization understand better how to manipulate and grab that data out of Teamwork Cloud that we need without having to necessarily go through some other means such as an internal plugin or scripts inside the tool, and therefore allows us to run it on a system that does not necessarily have to have Cameo open. So again, big user of the APIs, and I've got to say the Teamwork Cloud REST APIs are quite capable, and with some of the improvements they made over the last few versions, especially with authentications and tokens, it's just getting better and better. Now, the next kind of case study I want to talk about is called requirements to test cases, which might sound pretty simple on the surface, but it was anything but. Because our customer had a large set of external requirements in a DOORS database that weren't actually requirements. They were just test cases and all the individual steps that someone had captured in DOORS. And the customer needed us to be able to turn those into executable SysML sequence diagrams that they could then use, which we'll talk about on the next slide, some actual real-world test data that they were pulling in through other means to make sure that these tests, in fact, showed that the system was meeting the requirements, both in timing, message content, and things of that nature. So we end up using things like Data Hub, obviously, to pull in and sync a lot of these massive amounts of requirements. And then we used a lot of custom groovy macros, also leveraging the Apache's natural language processing, OpenNLP libraries to allow us to not only manipulate and understand the structure of the model data and the requirements, but actually the intent behind them as well. Because we all know that engineers, when we write test cases and requirements, as much as we try, sometimes there's ambiguity in them. And this allowed us to at least be able to flag or call out certain edge cases that may not work in the automation as intended. But basically what we did is once we got all these requirements into Cameo via Data Hub, we did a little bit of pre-processing and validation on the requirement content and structure and kind of manipulated it till it kind of met the needs and formats that this customer was used to. And then we began the process of parsing all the requirements. And there were over 200,000 requirements in this requirement set. And as we went through them, each high-level requirement, for all intents and purposes, was an individual test case, while the sub-requirements ended up being steps and sub-steps for that particular test case. And we took all that data and then the power of the Java API inside Cameo to then build out programmatically a sequence diagram for every single test case, along with adding in the timing constraints, duration constraints, and such of that nature, so that when the time came to put it up against real test data, we could easily see whether those messages that had been recaptured as part of the test data actually met the requirements, timing, and performance that have been described in the requirements. Now, this obviously had some big challenges, mainly just due to the scale of it. I don't know about y'all, but if you've ever had a model with over 200,000 requirements in it, it can get a bit squirrely on you. So there was a lot of forethought put into how to get those requirements in, only capturing what was really necessary, and then the time and complexity of parsing that much data and all the weird little edge cases and mistakes and off-nominal situations to then pull out enough information to accurately create these sequence diagrams. And so while the Java API provides a really robust set of classes and methods for diagram creation, it did require a lot of logic around the creation to understand and catch all the different little gotchas that had. But in the end, we were able to turn what was a large doors database into a mountain of sequence diagrams, which would have taken months, if not years, to model manually, and something that could be run in a day's time. And again, this is really the primary thing. This was really using just that Java API and the ability to create diagrams on the fly programmatically to allow us to not make their modelers have to spend, again, don't even want to know how many man hours it take to have parsed that database, gone through each test case, and created every sequence diagram by hand. It just would not have been feasible. But again, thanks to the API and a little bit of just luck, I think, when it came to getting some of this to work, we were able to do it all in a minimal amount of time. Now, the third one I want to talk about kind of circles back to MATLAB a little bit. And it's actually the same customer, because while it's great to have those test cases in there, we really wanted that so we could compare it against the actual test data that this customer would receive. Now, the interesting thing about this test data, it was originally in a file format that none of us had ever had any experience with, an HDF5 file. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but you can look it up. And unfortunately, while we could have written our own maybe file processor inside Cameo, thankfully MATLAB handled these files without issue and actually allowed us to do a lot of the pre-processing of the data inside MATLAB using its natural API and capabilities before really even having to bring it over to Cameo. So MATLAB kind of acted as both the ingestion point as well as doing the pre-processing, getting rid of some of the noise and the stuff that really wasn't of concern to the model before we had custom Groovy scripts inside Cameo that would pull in all the data from MATLAB, create an instance specification for each one of these messages, including having to deal with the header fields versus the payload field, which changed based on the message type. And so there was quite a bit of complex logic in here. But at the end, we end up having a model that was populated with instances of all the messages sent during this test event, along with the corresponding timing information. Now, we did have some interesting struggles and challenges with this one. In particular, SysML's limited data structure. While SysML is designed for modeling systems, and we do have UML for designing code, Cameo really internally didn't have, even in the API, besides what Java provides, some of the data structures that MATLAB was expecting. For example, all the timestamps were stored as unsigned integers inside this MATLAB and H5 file because they were all represented in Unix epoch time. So we had to make some compromises. We ended up converting a lot of that just to strings, so we could store that numerical value in its entire length, which was quite long, as a string inside Cameo. So when you see it inside Cameo, it will not look like a date and time. And so this required us to do additional parsing and some other information when we started integrating these two to make sure that we could do the time comparison. And before anybody asks, yes, I know there is a date time data structure inside Cameo. We have experimented with that a little bit. There still may be a possibility in the future that we do leverage that, but in the time being, the string conversions and processing seemed to work. But it was definitely a challenge in the beginning to figure out how we were going to actually store some of this data that just didn't make sense to be just strings, reals, or ints, or booleans. So we had to make some compromise. It's also worth noting a lot of this stuff takes a significant amount of time to run inside Cameo, even on high-end machines with high-end processors and RAM. This and the slide before could take hours for these scripts to run and process just the sheer amount of data that was brought in. Thankfully, the MATLAB side could be done separately than the Cameo side, so some of that work could be done in the pre-processing, getting it all done and in a format that was usable. But even the Cameo side still took significant amounts of time to run, to the point we even had to start integrating our own progress bars and stuff just to make sure it was actually working. But the takeaway from this one in particular is to show you that there can be a lot done from a processing standpoint just inside Cameo itself. When you have access to basically all the common Java libraries and then the extensions to the language, you can do a lot of data processing and manipulation inside Cameo if need be, and even pulling that data from other engineering platforms or tools such as MATLAB. And the final one I want to talk about was a proof of concept that we did for a customer a while back. And what they wanted was to be able to control SysML simulations being performed with Simulation Toolkit, but via an external application without needing any third-party plugins or connectors of that nature. They wanted to see if it was possible with just what was available inside the tool and the language to control a simulation outside Cameo. And thankfully, it was actually pretty straightforward. We leveraged, again, Cameo Simulation Toolkit and Cameo Systems Modeler along with Groovy, but we also made some external applications to test this in both Java and C#, and pretty much any other language that supports socket could have been used. And so what we ended up doing is we ended up creating these custom Groovy scripts that we either embedded in state machines or in activity diagrams, depending on the different demos we did, that ran a little bit of code that ended up opening up a socket connection and acted as a server of sorts. Now, while this technically could be done across a network, this was all done in air-gapped and local labs, but in theory, this could allow you to control simulations even across an enterprise. But once the sockets were open, we had external utilities written again in Java or C# that connected to those sockets, acting as kind of a client application. And then these external applications could send controls or messages back to the server side, and it would interpret it and enable actions such as sending signals, adjusting parametric values, or even value properties on different blocks and so forth, or even sending signals out and driving straight transitions in real time. So this allowed someone to run a simulation in Cameo Simulation Toolkit and have a separate application entirely that could be used to control it. And as simple as the proof of concept was, it did open up our eyes to the possibility of just how much you can control Cameo or the simulation just due to the inherent power of the API and the fact that Java built in has a lot of netcode and net libraries out there. Didn't mean we didn't have quite a few challenges. I don't know if anybody's ever done anything with socket level communication in code, but it's a lot of work and there's a lot of things that could go wrong. Not only maintaining stable connections, but also worrying about security. Again, this is a proof of concept, but there was something brought up very early on that opened up these sockets is not necessarily the most secure way of communication, but that can be mitigated with certain, additional work. It was, again, more of a proof of concept. We also worry a little bit about the scalability of this, because we noticed as we started trying to have multiple clients connected to a server, we started running into a lot of issues. Now, that could have likely been handled by better server-side code, handling concurrent events and stuff, but it's something to take into consideration. While the option's here, and it's fairly easy to set up, to really make it enterprise ready and scalable is going to take a significant amount of work and some software engineers that really understand the network stack and how that's going to work. But this proof of concept has opened up several other possibilities as we've done similar things with different applications just through the built-in capabilities of the API and things like sockets and other interconnectivity technologies without requiring too much, if any, third-party plugins, connectors, or anything. Some of these were done with just what's available in the tool and the basic C# or Java language with nothing else needed, which in itself is quite a statement. And to kind of wrap this up, I want to talk a little bit about, what does this mean? Well, the power that this Java API, Teamwork Cloud REST API, and the other things that are coming online has really allowed us at Enola to repeatedly leverage and then customize and extend Magic Draw and Teamwork Cloud however the customer needs to meet their requirements. Whether this be from high volume requirement conversions, test data correlations, analytics, or even just solving some of those day-to-day headaches that we all have when modeling. The API allows you to do just about anything that you could imagine inside this tool. While there are some limitations, they are very few and far between and are very specialized. And this, again, at Enola has allowed us to come forth and just solve a madrid of problems that our customers have had over the years. Not even problems they realized were problems that needed to be solved until we showed them the light that with a little bit of scripting, a little bit of code, you can make a lot of this not only easier on your end users and modelers, but also allow your team to be better integrated. And so some of the outcomes that we're particularly proud of is just back to speed to value. Anytime you talk about automation, we all know that if you use Cameo or any tool like this a lot, you're making thousands of mouse clicks a day. If you can start cutting some of those out and taking hours, if not even just minutes worth of work and automating it, over time, that really pays off and allows your modelers to focus more on what they need to do besides just doing a bunch of mouse clicks and basic, busy work inside the tool. We've also shown that you can do this at scale, like we did with some of the large Teamwork Cloud rational databases. That ended up being scaled to an enterprise-wide, having just millions upon millions of lines of data in a database that they were able to analyze, manipulate, and project, and then feed back into their larger enterprise and leadership, not only to help justify and show the value of MBSE, but also help to make important decisions as they go after different opportunities as well. And then just the interoperability. We all know there's lots of other ways of integrating tools with things like Cameo, and there's plenty of awesome third-party solutions out there. But just be able to leverage some of the things that most of us have available to us, such as MATLAB or things like Python, we can really capture and do quite a bit, even if they're just a one-time thing, but even something that can scale and stay with an organization or project long-term. It is all possible with the power that these tools bring. And with that, is there any questions or anything? I haven't looked at the Q&A yet, but I'm happy to answer any questions y'all might have.
I haven't seen any additional in the Q&A. Or if you have them in the chat, feel free to post them in the chat.
And I'll do a shameless plug here in case anybody is wanting to dip their toes into the API. We do actually offer a class called, what are we calling it now? It's basically an introduction into the Java API with lots of hands-on examples that teach you how to do macros and scripts, whether it be for custom columns, smart packages, anything like that. So if you're interested in learning a little bit about the API, check out our open enrollment schedule. I often teach that. And if there's got more than a few, reach out. That's something we can absolutely schedule for you. It's also probably my favorite class to teach. That's partly why I'm saying that.
Sign me in.
I'm going to have to expand it quite a bit with SysML v2 here soon.
So let's do interchange, right?
Right.
if I would be digital engineer responsible for integrations and would need to set up the integrated environment, I would take this class as the first class to take.
And it's great for even those that don't have a lot of programming experience. I mean, as long as you can understand the basics, we're just going to cover like the core concepts, which really opens people's eyes to just how much there is in that API and how much you can really you can do with it. And you walk away with a whole ton of examples that you can take home and play with as well.
If you have example, you can build anything different based on that example.
Right. Including the sequence diagram code I was talking about earlier. That is actually something we cover, and I do give away a copy of at least how to generate sequence diagrams and activity diagrams programmatically as part of that class.
It's amazing. The sequence diagram is more maybe as a view useful than actual developing by itself.
I learned a lot about sequence diagrams on that project. I feel much more comfortable with them now, knowing how I have to build them in the API. The fact that all the messages are actually the same object, it's just an enumeration that changes between a call or send message was quite eye-opener.
And Nicole didn't have a question, but again, thank you, Nicole, for the questions and feedbacks. Just a comment. She loved the discussion on the use cases and where the API has been used. So thank you so much for that. Perfect. If there's no other questions or we'll take all the compliments and comments, or Saulius, any final thoughts from you or David, our speakers? Otherwise, we are happy to give everyone some time back, and we'll be certain to send out today to all the attendees not only a copy of all of the slides presented, but you should automatically get a link to the webinar. We'll also be following up with, once this is on the Enola YouTube channel, on our LinkedIn channel. Thank you, Ray. Great. He said great presentation. So thank you, Ray, for that.
Yes, thank you. I can talk about API all day. So.
I still have a question, with your experience. So I was very surprised actually that you did so many projects. Actually, it's like really impressive. Where do you think simulation and maybe API-based simulation pushing the limit, to new potential and simulations, or in areas which they're not like necessarily primary areas?
That's a good question. I think the thing that I would like to see, because the simulation API is there and is fairly robust. Some of the challenges we've seen is that not everybody has access to the 3DX platform and Dymola and a lot of those cool tools that may solve the problem without needing to use Cameo. However, we have been able to prove time and time again that just using the Java API can allow you to control the simulation and integrate with other more homegrown simulation tools. That's something out of the NavAir side, that we have a lot of government developed simulations, war campaign models, things of that nature that were able to integrate into the simulations, either feeding data and feeding it out, again, just thanks to the Java API. Though I would like to see the API expand a little bit in documentation, examples, and more importantly, adding a lot more API capabilities to some of the plugins. The data marking and classification plugin has no API. Cameo Collaborator Publisher, while we have managed to automate publishing, it is not for the faint of heart. Something that would give us API access to auto-publish when needed would be good. So I think Dassault has some options to really expand by allowing more API access into some of the plugins. That could even include some of the newer plugins that you mentioned. I haven't had a chance to see if there is API access for them, but something I would love to see, even if it's not something I use, because anything that adds extendability to this tool, I think just helps the tool that much more.
And we had a really great question just now from Matthew Adler. And David, I think you're the perfect person to answer this for so many reasons, especially since you work with one of the largest agricultural equipment manufacturers on the planet right now. He says, as a graduate research assistant, I'm seeing firsthand how research often gets stuck in silos. How could MBSE/digital engineering be used to break those silos down so soil, forage, livestock, and community outcomes can be modeled together instead of separately?
Well, I think if anything, my knowledge of work being siloed comes from 15 years in the federal government. That's probably the worst at it. But it's a good point, because I think MBSE and digital engineering, especially when you start talking about digital engineering that goes beyond just system engineering, really does help break down those walls, because it forces organizations to start talking. And when you talk about a digital ecosystem, it makes them having to start being a little bit more honest about their data, the pedigree, what's accessible, where it comes from. Because once it's being fed into a larger ecosystem that may drive other decisions, other simulation, other modeling initiatives, it puts the spotlight on those organizations that sometimes have been able to kind of hide back in the lab and just throw stuff over the fence every now and then. So really the digital engineering and starting to build out those digital ecosystems where we have integrations and data paths between the different parts of engineering, program management, and beyond, really forces people to take down some of those walls and start interacting, because without that, you're not going to have those integrations and that giant ecosystem that everybody strives for. But it is definitely a challenge. We can talk about API challenges all day long. At the end of the day, the hardest challenge is probably the cultural aspect and getting folks to open up and be more engaged in areas that may not seem relative to them as a person or as a business unit, but seeing their value and how their input and data can feed the larger organization. And sometimes it's just making them realize that their contributions is going to help them in the long term as well.
And we just got another, Matthew, I hope that addressed your great question. Just got another one in from Mai. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you very much for the great presentation. In the context of MBSE, I find the consistency and continuity across artifacts very important. I'd be very interested in your expert view on when it makes sense to copy artifacts from one tool to another, and at what point it no longer does parentheses redundancy. If this goes beyond the scope today's presentation, they understand. So if this is something that we can get back directly, we will. But David, if you want to take a shot at it, or even Saulius, happy to try and answer it while we're here.
Yeah, this may require a more in-depth discussion, but you bring up a really good point. As we start, expanding beyond just MBSE, and I'll be honest, in my opinion, it seems like so much of my career has been pushing MBSE. And I'm not saying that still doesn't happen, but now a lot of folks are like, great, we get this MBSE. What's next? How can we start integrating it more into our business operations and other disciplines? And that's where things like having artifacts and data replicated across multiple locations becomes a challenge, because sometimes there's just no way around it. With some of the way integrations work, you are keeping data in sync across multiple different products or databases. But we all know that if we can reduce duplication and just reach back to the source of truth, the better. But unfortunately, not all technology, organizational constructs, and even IT restrictions allow that sometimes. But it is definitely a struggle I think almost everybody deals with when they start building out and starting to integrate more and more, as we see arguments over who actually owns this data. Well, this group's always made it, but really are they the sole proprietor of that data, or is it someone else? And so that leads to some of those tough discussions and just compromises that have to be made, which helps, again, back to the earlier question, break down some of those walls and force some other groups to start working together to a common solution. But it is a hard one to address without talking probably specifics into different artifacts and technologies. But it is definitely a struggle I think many of us deal with on a fairly regular basis.
Perfect. And Mai, if you want to follow up even further with us on that, happy to connect on LinkedIn and even set aside some time. So again, thank you for the great questions and the feedback from everybody.
I was hoping more low-level API questions, but I guess I get what I get. I'm not asking to stump the chump, though. That's I'm not saying I'm an expert. I just
maybe that'll be our November webinar. There we go. We'll put you back on a hot seat. All right. Well, it doesn't look like we have any more feedback or anything else. So again, everyone, we really appreciate everyone's time, attention, and of course our speakers for today's great content. NOLA is going to keep rolling out more webinars every month. Next month, I think we're going to have one of our customers on with our CEO, talking about practical applications of MBSE in their environment and what they do. So look for more updates on that. And if you have any further questions for Saulius or David Fields for NOLA or Dassault, please reach out. We're always on LinkedIn. I know Saulius is you're very big proponent of using your LinkedIn to broadcast the value of MBSE and everything that Dassault is working on, and especially with this awesome new release coming out. So guys, we are accessible and we are here for you. So thank you for your time and attention. Look forward to sending out the follow-up to every one of you with the slides, and you should see the recording link as well. Thank you so much for everyone attending today. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.